regularly scheduled board meeting for USD230 to order. Candy, please collect the roll.
Mr. Anderson,
Present.
Mr. Ewing, Mr. Hoffman,
Present.
Mrs. Emilius,
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Here.
Mrs. Sealing,
Here.
Mr. Updike.
Present. Very good. Thank you. Next item is approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
It's moved and seconded for the approval of the agenda. Any comments or edits? Candy, please collect the vote.
We'll begin the vote with Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
approved.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you. Board members, welcome. Thank you for being here this evening. We'll move right on to business with individuals. Candy?
No cards were received.
Okay, very good. Moving on to the consent agenda, which consists of approval of the consent agenda items, approval of the minutes, personnel, mascot selection for the New Forest Spring Middle School, and request from Spring Hill High School journalism students to attend the national conference in St. Louis, Missouri, and from the FFA organization to attend their national conference. And finally, is to approve early graduation request for the class of 2023. Any discussion, questions, comments about the consent agenda?
I just want to say it's been 11 years of reading the early graduation request letters. Those were the most well-written I've ever
Great.
seen.
Absolutely.
It was really nice and I've always read them all. It's fun, but it was very well done.
Good.
With that, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
It's moved in second for the approval of the consent agenda. Any final questions or comments? Candy, please collect the vote.
We'll start the vote with Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
approved.
Very good. Moving on to good news, recognitions, and announcements. Dr. Luttrell.
Yes, we started a couple months ago. As we started a few months ago, we have a component that now puts a spotlight video, a couple minutes on each, on one of our district attendance centers. And this month, the video will highlight what's going on at Spring Hill Elementary School.
Everything seems to be going well. It's great to have the students here. It makes the day go by a lot faster with them and all their activities throughout the building, and it's just great to be here with them.
We also have started our first Lego League that ties into real world learning, really giving our kids experiences in STEM and different areas of our building that apply to what they're going to see on the outside and not just on inside of school.
This year at Spring Hill Elementary, we've been able to add social play into our day, which has been really nice because the kids are learning how to play and interact with each other and work through problem-solving skills. It's also a lot of fun to see them play and use their imagination throughout the day.
Subbing here at Spring Hill Elementary in the kitchens, and everything's running real smooth. Not really having any problems, and the kids seem to be enjoying their lunches.
Something that's really going well at Spring Hill Elementary is we get to just dive into new reading curriculum, and I've really enjoyed that, and I think the kids have too, because we've got to try out new stories. It's very engaging.
I love how collaborative my team is. I love the support that I'm getting from my principal. I feel like everybody is a part of the team here, and so I feel very welcome and supported, and I love the positive things that we're doing with kids.
Things are going great here at Spring Hill Elementary.
Okay, and then if, one other announcement I want to make under good news recognitions and announcements is that a little over a week ago, I had the opportunity to go out and recognize and surprise each individual school's honoree for Teacher of the Year. And I did put there as a PDF, if you wanted to pull that up, you can see there the pictures of each honoree. We had at the Early Learning Academy, we want to congratulate each of them. We had Heather Thompson at Dayton Creek Elementary. We had Megan Daniels. And at Prairie Creek Elementary, we had Megan Bubb. At Spring Hill Elementary, we had Hannah Klein. At Timber Sage Elementary, we had Jamie Weiss. And at Wolf Creek Elementary, Sarah Dwyer. At the secondary level, we had Spring Hill Middle honoree Taylor Woodward. At Woodland Spring Middle School, Autumn Beshore. And at Spring Hill High, Emily Veer. And then from that group, outstanding group of talent, there will be one elementary representative selected that will be honored as the elementary Teacher of the Year representative for Spring Hill that will be submitted as part of the state level competition. And then same for the secondary level out of the two middle schools and the high school. One of those three will be selected and named the secondary representative for the statewide Teacher of the Year. So again, congratulations to each of those. A couple of the other just announcements. Conclusion of first quarter, believe it or not, is this Wednesday. After this Wednesday, there'll be a 2-hour early dismissal for parent-teacher conferences. And then Thursday and Friday this week for students, there will not be any classes as that will be fall break. And then also this week, we are gearing up for the annual State of the District breakfast, which is set for Thursday morning, October the 13th. So that is our good news, announcements, and recognitions.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Luttrell. Moving on to discussion items. First is Forest Spring Middle School construction report and draft timeline for staffing. Dr. Luttrell.
Yes, as you know, Forest Spring Middle School is set to have their opening in August of 2023. Construction is well underway. Mr. Meek was here a few weeks ago, about a couple months ago, and gave us an update on progress there. That progress has continued. He's going to share the latest updates. And then I also, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I did, it's also getting very close to the time where we have to start looking at the systemic internal structures in terms of staffing, in terms of programming. And so kind of gave you a timeline, draft timeline that shows everything from how we hope to proceed to make sure we're ready to go from a people standpoint. And of course, that begins with hiring of the principal, which we posted that a couple weeks ago, and that position will remain open until about the 21st of this month. We'll do screening, and we hope that at some time in November, we'll have a recommendation for you for that position. And then from there onward, that person will kind of lead the efforts in terms of working with our other key individuals to determine staffing and ordering of many of the materials and that. But tonight, at this time, Mr. Meek is going to provide us the latest updates with that facility. Mr. Meek.
All right. We'll just start like we always do with the financials for the bond. Right now, there's still no changes to the bond. There's still same status. We don't see any real changes in that at this point. So going on to the fourth.
We haven't gotten any notices of escalation that's hurting any of our bids or anything.
Right now, we're still good to go. Luckily, the way we bid things out, there's really not a lot of room for some escalation. There are some very minor escalation because most of the things we've told them to go ahead and buy. So if they stored it, kind of like light fixtures, I know, I think I've shown pictures before where we stored the light fixtures in our warehouse just to allow them to get them here early because they didn't have somewhere to do it. So, you know, we've been able to take care of some of our risks by doing that type of stuff. And other people, Zimmerman, who is our carpentry and some of the building specialty stuff, they have their own warehouse and they bought stuff right away to lessen the risk. You know, and
What about power equipment? That's the one that's really out there long.
we're actually all of the electrical stuff is in place and we're way beyond that right now. So yeah, so all electrical gear is in place. As you'll see in most of the pictures on the inside, we're at coming along really nicely on that. I mean, really, we're down to them pulling a little bit of wire and placing receptacles and things like that. All the main switch gear and all of those pieces. The generator is supposed to be here by the end of the month, and that was one of the longer lead times. But it's been on order for I think almost a year now, as it was. So we were able to get that in. Couple of long lead time things. We've got one controller. It's called a Crestron controller, which is controlling the lighting and everything like that in the auditorium. That is the one item I know that we won't have for punch time when we try to do our punch list in January. They're telling us March right now for it. Microphones and those things, we should have all of that in hand. That's one of those other things that I think Phil was talking about, trying to order some microphones for somebody here right now, and they're telling him almost a year lead time for microphones and that type of equipment right now. So only 18 months. I'm sorry, I misunderestimated yeah. I felt really fortunate. I had to order some for one school last spring, and I was able to get them in about 6 months. So once I've heard 18 months now, it's I'm glad I got mine when I did. So, but overall, we're tracking really good on some of that. I know as we start moving into the FF&E stuff, the furniture and stuff like that, my vendor tells me that furniture seems to be in good shape at this point. The mere fact when we're trying to get our order in, we're planning on trying to have stuff arrive here in March. That puts us way ahead of everybody else that tries to get stuff in the summer. So we're should be in very good shape on all of that. One of the other items was lockers. It wasn't the locker themselves, it was the hardware for the locker. That is in the hands of the manufacturer. The lockers are being manufactured right now. You'll see the locker bases are in place, ready for the lockers to come in, and we expect for them to be here by the middle of next month and all as well. So everything's tracking really good. We were waiting on windows for the doors on the coolers for the food service equipment, and they have shipped. They've arrived at the manufacturer, and they were one of the top ones on their list to get those shipped out. So most of the things we were tracking a little iffy on have started to flow in right now. So we're real happy with that. So I won't bore you with reading all the next milestones and stuff. I'll let you guys do that at your own. I will point out the successes and the challenges. Successes is core communications. They're our telecom room cabling people. For somebody, Mr. Elliott took a tour of their cabling, and for him to say, we need to take a picture of this so that we can show everybody else this is how a room should be done. That was quite a compliment to the guy. He's very conscientious, their main guy there, and all very neat work. I mean, it's how it should be. So it's gonna be a hard standard for the next people to live up to when they follow up. But challenges, Hermes our landscape contractor. It's really not anything major, but they're slower than we want them. We want to get the sod in the ground and get it watered in and stuff like that. So their production is creeping on. I think we'll be in okay shape, but it's still because we'll be able to water all the way in through December, and sod should still should still take, and we're looking at by the end of the month, doing a lot of sodding and stuff around there. So trees are going in right now. They're having to water them daily with their own water truck. So they're anxious to get it done as well. Their foreman, their people are. So the safety reports, same, one recordable accident, but no lost time accidents, and 3 for 403 days right now. I'll point out that I'm going a little fast. I skipped quickly. So you see the gym, the bleachers are going in. Actually, the bleachers are all the way up. They've started putting seats on. It's one of the problems happen when I get pictures taken on Tuesday and you guys don't get them till Monday. Things can progress a long ways by then. So the floor is laid in the gym, getting ready. They'll do the bleachers, but they don't do the finish on the floor except for underneath the bleachers until the bleachers are done and put together, so that if they do any damage to it, they can sand them out. So the stage hardwood's ready to go in as well. You can see the stadium bleachers are mostly installed right now. They're 99% complete. You can see the ceiling and carpet installation. That's in one of the pods. So you can see the locker bases are there, but other than that, the carpet's done. The classrooms are mostly carpeted in the classroom wings. The ceiling that you see there, that's in the library area, the center of the building between the pods there. And they were putting ceiling tile in that today. So, and there's your old view of what it was like in 8/3 of 21 versus what it looks like today. So we'll go. Food service equipment is there, all of it except for the walk-in cooler and freezer, and it should be here within a week. That's pretty much it on the middle school. Any questions on it? Okay. Other construction and maintenance projects. The big one we've still got going right now is the Spring Hill Middle School track and field improvements. We had hoped that they would be there today. They said, no, we're not there today. We're here tomorrow. So they're supposed to be here tomorrow to start the surface. As long as the weather holds out and not raining or whatever, they'll be starting the surface on Spring Hill Middle School maintenance project for the track and field improvements. So and that should take a little over a week to put the surface down, and then about 2 weeks for it to cure. And then they'll usually come in about 2 weeks after the fact and paint the lines on it. So
How do we keep people off of it while it's cured?
we'll lock it up. I mean, we have gates. We have gates that we can lock it completely up. So we'll be doing that. And that doesn't mean somebody won't. And it sets up overnight overall. So if somebody did get on it, they're probably not gonna really damage it, but the only thing that if they would try to ride a motorcycle or something like that on it, and hopefully we don't have anybody that tries to sneak that in there. So wouldn't be the first time somebody's tried to do that over the years. The scoreboard, as you can see, I think most of you have probably seen that. If you've been to any games, it's been there all season. So the other things we've got coming up, and I just wanted to bring to you, because right now, furniture, fixtures, equipment, all of those things, some of those things are going to be going pretty quickly. I want to bring them to your attention now, because we may not have time to have a discussion one meeting and then vote on them the next, because some of these things, the vendors are not holding their prices much more than a couple of weeks is all that they will give us. So we will probably have to move quickly on some of them. If I have time to bring them before you in a meeting before that, I will, but otherwise there may be some that we're just gonna have to bring to you at the last minute. And some of the things are pretty long lead times. We found out, football uniforms and football equipment, they're saying 9 months to get that in. Band equipment is running 9 months for some of it. A lot of it's quicker than that, but for some of the pieces of equipment, they're saying it can be a 9 month wait right now. So they're all pushing us to to get our orders in right now. Plus, I don't think we're gonna see much of a pricing decrease by any means. Not when there's still a shortage of it. So if anything, the price will probably continue to go up. So we're wanting to try to get our orders in as quick as we can. So we will keep you informed, and if, always, we will ask for any questions you have about it, but we're still using the school and office products company that we've been using for furniture out of Wichita, and we'll be using the contract bid prices that we have with them for most of the furniture. Over the years, we've been able to get what we figure out's the best price. The dirty little secret in school furniture is that whoever registers the job gets the big discount. So it doesn't really matter. You want to pick who you want to work with, and they're going to get the big discount. It's a lot of people don't like to have you mention that, but that's how they work. So you can put it on the street, but you're not going to get any better price than who registers the job. And so you want to make sure the company you're working with is somebody that you're talking to first is the one that you want to buy from. So any questions? All right.
Seems like things are moving on really well.
They are. I wasn't going to mention this, but the building would probably be available for a tour whenever you guys would want to. I hated to bring it up. I thought one of you guys would be asking when you could get in. So since none of you did, if you wanted to try to schedule a tour in November or something, that definitely would be at a point. And I'll talk to Dr. Luttrell about that.
Will there be heat if it's cold?
There is heat already.
Okay.
So yeah, there's water in the building, so there better be heat. So yeah, there's heat and there's air conditioning both. So
Would that be something we could do November 19th after our,
Saturday.
or before or after or middle? Take a break?
Yeah, I think we could.
It's a Saturday.
Start early.
I don't work Saturdays, guys. I'm just kidding. My keys already work the clock, so we've already got some of our regular cores in, and also, yeah, not a problem. And I'm sure the J Dunn guys would like to be there too, just to see your reaction as you walk in. By that time, we should be, nearing a very good point for you to see what it's going to look like. So, yeah. So that'll be up to. I'll let you guys work with Dr. Luttrell on scheduling that. So I just know people are usually anxious, and I was just waiting because I thought one of you is always wanting to go and tour them early. So
I was thinking it, for the record.
okay, I was kind of reading your mind there, Brent. Brent wants to go. Okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Oops. Oh. All right. Thanks.
And then the tentative timeline, like I said, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, and the key to remember there on those dates is that it's a draft, and it's, but that's, if everything would hold true to form, that's what we want to adhere to. But there could be, depending on different circumstances, some adjustments, but we will try to adhere to that as closely as possible. But it does all begin with, first and foremost, getting the leader hired, which would be the principal. We hope to have that completed with the recommendation to you sometime during November.
Kansas Education System Accreditation process.
Yes, just again, briefly, we did have last week our Year 5 Kansas Education Systems Accreditation visit from the Kansas Department of Education. We had 3 reviewers that came on site for the day. Dr. Smith and her team, along with many others throughout the district, helped put that day together. We will not have a formal official report probably until December, maybe January. However, unofficially, the exit conference that afternoon from the team to members of our executive team was very positive. They really felt that the district had been consistent over the period of 5 years in terms of where they were headed, where they wanted to be. And Dr. Smith also said that they commented that even with the fact, they were impressed with the fact that even with the growth the district has had throughout the last 5 years, coupled with some of the leadership changes that have occurred, with Dr. Smith coming in, after year 3, and then of course, with the retirement of Dr. Burke, myself coming in, Dr. Robinson, that really still felt that the quality of our instructional programs had not suffered, and that even with moving forward with some of the new leadership, that things were not getting lost in the shuffle or drop between the cracks, and also felt that it also was kind of reinforcing more so that we definitely needed to stay on path while making small adjustments or tweaks as needed. But hopefully that final report will come, and when that is available, Dr. Smith, we will have her come and give a formal review to the board at that time. But it went well. Again, thanks to everyone that helped prepare for that visit, because a successful visit doesn't just happen by chance, and takes a lot of work on the front end over a period of time for that to happen.
Good news.
Well done. It's important, and it is doesn't happen in a vacuum. There's a lot of people, I think, that do a lot of hard work to make these things work. So moving on to Horizon items.
Just again, as you notice, I'm trying to slowly learn many things about the district as to what's pressing, what are things that we definitely need to be aware of, and I've tried to slowly figure out as we plan the rest of the school year what are some of the major things that we need to bring and discuss and talk about. And it's slowly taking shape, and that you've heard me say, I am a firm believer in professional learning communities and our PLCs, especially our late start embedded collaborative time that we have on Wednesdays, whether it's a late start or an early release. However, during the 4 years that we've had PLCs without really having a normal year, there really hasn't been too much feedback solicited from parents or staff as to how they view that time in terms of do they feel it's an inconvenience? Do they know the benefits of it? I know that I've tried to take every opportunity I have when I have an audience with parents or writing some form of a message, trying to reiterate the importance of that time because it is time that's totally devoted to student learning as well as individual student learning. And so we're hoping that by the end of this month, now that we have at least one full quarter underway now, that we hope that by the end of the month, we'll have just a brief survey, 5-10 questions max, that we can send out to parents, just getting some feedback. Because I do think that at this time, after 4 years, we need to really assess what has worked well with the PLC format, specifically the early release, late start, and determine if there are some tweaks or adjustments that need to be made. And so that if we would make them, that we would have that information, we can possibly bring some recommendations, and have those in place, so as we, by early spring, late February, early March, so that we can, if there are tweaks, that we can, then communicate those out as we prepare for the 23-24 school year. So that's in the works, and we hope that we'll send that survey out in a month, and then sometime at one of the November meetings, have that information, shared to you as a board. We also have at one of the meetings, it's probably going to be the second meeting in October or the first meeting in November. Dr. Smith and I do plan to present just some general student performance data from the state assessment, not our we may throw in some of our local assessment pieces, but primarily it's going to focus on just, what USD230 Spring Hill students, what our student data looked like in 2022, just a snapshot from 1 year, and how we compared to state averages using the state reporting system. Again, that's going to be either the second meeting, the first or second meeting in November is when we hope to do that. I don't think I'll get that in on the next meeting, which that's a morning meeting. So we're looking forward to that. In fact, I've looked at some of the data that we've been putting together from that, and again, it's definitely promising, but I also say there's always room to grow, and you can always find areas in which you can perform better. Then as far as also heading into that late November, early December timeframe is when, now that the listen and learn tour is complete, I'm beginning the draft of my summer report that I will plan to share out to stakeholders. You all will be the first to see that report. It's not going to be real lengthy, probably hopefully 8, 10, 12 pages with some pictures. And kind of from that tell you what basically some of the major points, themes that emerged from the listen and learn tour to the 3 main questions. And then from that, I probably will also have in that some recommendations or thoughts for moving forward with next steps, some things that we can maybe then from that incorporate as points of emphasis into our strategic plan, which again should be and always should remain a living, fluid document as well. So that's going to keep us busy through the end of the year. And then in December, January, or February, or a combination of those months. And again, I don't want to go into it a lot tonight because I don't even really have all the information, but I just want to give you a heads up that I do think that because of the fact that the environment we live in right now, we've all seen the labor shortages that we have in wherever you drive through any community. And doesn't matter almost hardly what sector you're part of, you're clamoring for workers. And then school districts are not immune to that. And one area that we definitely have had challenges, continue to have challenges, although we have been able to meet the bell without, too many problems. And that is looking at our bus schedules, student transportation bus schedules. And right now we are on a single tiered where basically all of our bus routes begin. They pick up our elementary, middle, and high school students, and they pretty much all get dropped off and start all schools in a time frame of about 5 or 10 minutes of each other. But you do have to have quite a few routes to do that. Many districts do what is called double tiered, where you basically you might start your K-5 routes and then drop off, and then those same drivers then go back out and will pick up secondary routes. Now, the trade-off there, or if you call it a trade-off, is that does lessen the number of overall routes, which you do not need as many drivers. Of course, then you also then have to lengthen though. You can't usually keep all your schools within 5 or 10 minutes of each other. You would have to basically, if that's the approach you chose, your K-5, or let's say you picked up your older children first, your 6 through 12, this is just hypothetical, might be at like a 7:45 start. And then this second tiered, the K-5 group might have like an 8:30 start. Now, the trade-off then is, of course, if you start earlier in the morning, you would then release earlier in the afternoon. Same way, the trade-off if you start later, you would dismiss later. So again, it's just something I think we need to look at as we continue to grow, as we maybe a need for other routes. I was telling another person earlier today that like I said, tiered double tier is pretty, most districts, many districts, I bet by easily 2/3 at least have already moved to the double tiered. And some of your districts have even got to a point now because of the shortages, have even moved to or are looking at triple tiering, where they're simply putting all their elementaries going and picking up, dropping off, going back out doing middle schools. So I mean, it's because of the drive. Again, not saying that we have a recommendation one way or the other right now. I just think it's something we need to get some numbers on. Again, at some appropriate times, solicit, some feedback from our parents and that. But again, that's another thing that we would hope a change like that, if we were going to make that we could have our information and our feedback from parents and that, and then a decision made again by March at the latest, so that we could look at making sure that we have ample time to communicate that out and plan appropriately. When you think about the fact with the labor shortage, with the fact that we are opening up our third middle school in the fall, that might be that's going to create another, with that an additional drop off, even staying single tiered. And so, now would be a good time at least to examine the whole structure to see. So that's going to be coming at you.
I
And
had something to comment
Yes.
on that. We did look at this pretty serious, probably might have been 10 years ago or something.
In fact, yes,
This is a cost savings measure, but yeah, we elected not to at the time, but.
Yeah.
it's always
in
kind of
fact,
been-
I think it was finance guru, Mr. Schwinn there said that I think it was back in the last, one of the last big recessions in like 2009 or so was whenever the district looked at that. And so anyway, it'll be interesting, I think, just to see what comes back. The only people I've talked to so far out has been Dr. Robinson. We brought our transportation folks in to talk to them, and I want to make sure you all were aware. And then I'll go back and talk with principals, get some information. Then bus company's going to get back. We're going to get back for the end of the month and kind of look at some financial numbers and different things. And then at that point, we'll probably then, like I said, do some surveying and getting some feedback from some parent groups, and then bring you all back into the discussion.
Have you, as a district leader, had both kinds that you've worked with before? Have you worked with a double tiered system?
Yeah. Yes. And again, I am not advocating either way, but the district most recently we were on and we actually moved to a double tiered, and we'd been on double tiered for probably 12, 14 years. There was a 40, I think the high school K through 6 through 12 started at 7:45, got out at 2:40, 2:45, and then the K5 started at 8:30, 8:35, and went and got out at like 3:20. So, but yes, you can do it different ways. Now, again, some districts, everybody kind of has to customize it for what best meets their needs. Some of it's dictated by how geographically large your district could be in terms of square miles. I know that some schools, again, look at research in terms of when do kids in the morning wake up, when are they more alert? It might need to sleep later. But there are some double tiered busing routes that sometimes may go, they might have a start time as late as like 9 o'clock. And then they go sometimes up until close to 4, that again, usually you'll see that more in the elementary. Sometimes that's, it's just, again, it depends on your community and pages, but yes. And then, like I said, then at some point we'll need to, when we have one of our work sessions or a regular session, as we continue to grow, even though our numbers, like I said, we're not hit our projected points, we still have grown, right at between 90 and 100 students. And I think that's going to continue increasing. I'm not too concerned that our growth has ended because it hasn't. So at some point in time, we will need to have a discussion probably after the first of the year as to where we are thinking we're headed at in terms of enrollment and when we might need to go back to the voters with the ballot question, whether that be for a new attendance center or, maybe if we think our enrollment is going to be a little bit more, maybe, like I said, I do think that maybe we bought a year right now with our enrollment this year kind of not being where we had hoped it would be. We might have bought a year, which is good in terms of just catching our breath. And, maybe there's a time where maybe before we have to go for another big battle issue with the new school, maybe we could do work something in that might, be a very, very either a no mill increase or a small mill increase to maybe do a much smaller issue that may not involve a new school, but might be address some other needs that we have that might not get into near the expense of what we would have to have when we do go for a new school or new schools. But that'll be probably somewhere, as we said, sometime when we have a work session, probably in January, because I don't think we're going to have a lot of things on our agenda the next few months that probably a regular session wouldn't be doable for that. But again, a lot things going on, and the next few months into the spring, we shouldn't have to worry too much. We're not going to have a dearth of topics to talk about. There's always going to be some issues going to take our attention.
So I have a comment about the PLC. I think a parent survey is great, but what I would really like to see is how we're measuring the success of what our goal was with PLC. So we had this 5-year goal, we put it in place. Where are we in that? And are we actually accomplishing what we tried to do? Because on the parent side, PLCs are a burden for parents, getting their kids late or early or figuring out what to do. So I think making sure we're accomplishing those goals so that we are that value, that time they're giving up on Wednesdays or the extra they're doing for us, we can show them that this is actually making a difference.
Definitely. And that's, as I said, there's definitely some data that we can, you can share with that in terms of from those PLC discussions with, however, like I said, the biggest challenge, like I said, we face with in terms of actually measuring a lot of things right now is the fact that, again, because of the fact that while we are in the 4th year of it, we really have not had 4 full years of it. But there are still, but I can speak volumes, the fact of having the times when we're able to have the collaboration time where they've, talked about student learning and that of what they're going to teach something, how after they've assessed something, what worked well, what didn't. So yeah, we can definitely have some talking points and ways that we can say, look, here's some evidence that we feel this is definitely working and being successful. So
yeah, I think that's what one of the even bullet points, baseline for measuring how well PLCs are working. And I think that was coming from a point of making sure we're hitting those time goals and how we're implementing PLCs and bridging the gap, grade to grade and school to school. More than making sure we have a baseline of measuring how it's going for parents. So I think I'd like to see if we're extending that 5-year plan, what does that look like? Is this longer than 5 years? Is PLCs longer than 5 years? Will it go on forever? Yeah, I think that would be interesting to see. And then be able to gauge that next year again when we see those same things.
Any other questions or comments?
Could you go on down the list?
Oh, can you scroll down just a second or a little bit, Phil?
Not much.
Yeah, that
Oh,
last,
that's
I wanted to clarify that last
Good one.
item. I was wanting to do that at the end of the semester and not at the.
Which one?
school year.
Oh, the phones?
Cell phone.
Yeah, that was one again, and I still have that one. I just haven't decided in terms of with the some of the not really, but you know, just the re-stressing of the fact of trying to make sure that cell phones are kept to a level where try to truly minimize a loss of focus, you know, within the classroom. I do plan at some point, I just hadn't decided yet, whether we would have some updates on how that's going. I definitely, we need to do that before we get too far into the spring. But I thought about, as we said, doing it either possibly even at or near the conclusion of first semester. I just hadn't been able to give a lot of thought yet to determine what's the best way. Initially, if we do something first semester, would it be best to maybe, I got to talk with some of the other leadership team members and see if it's going to, is it best to, at this point, just talk among as a group, as a, you know, get input from teachers and them to see, and then maybe get a broader perspective once, you know, from students and parents, once we get to the spring. But yeah, it's something that is definitely, because I know that was whenever they was put into place last spring with that other discussion, it was said that at some point there want to be some follow-up feedback. And I just, like I said, haven't fully decided whether to, how to approach that from first semester. I think it would probably be good first semester if we do it to just get some oral feedback from principals, teachers, what they seeing. And then maybe as we get into March, head into that last, maybe at that time, revisiting with some formal parents and that, but it's definitely coming up too.
Very good. Moving on to the board work calendar. Dr.
And
Luttrell.
And again, I really, like I said last month, now that you kind of see what I've kind of put together and working up in terms of Horizon, you can that kind of goes hand in hand with the board work calendar. They kind of overlap a lot. We're in outside of the items that I mentioned are going to be on the horizon. If you look the next couple months, you know, I've got those things, you know, mentioned, but there'll be a few other things in there as well. Just, you know, we'll probably, like I said, as Mr. Meek talked about, you know, we'll have some items probably on the consent agenda for furnishings and that go into the building. We'll have to start thinking about fees, you know, for next summer and that. But as far as our big items that we've got coming up, you know, I kind of highlighted those. So we're in good shape with the board work calendar. And
Very good. Thank you. Moving on to committee reports. Reports from Board of Education.
I attended the Wolf Creek Elementary Site Council on October 4th. And Mrs. Cooper introduced new staff. And I think that the bulk of the time was spent talking about how the elementary schools are piloting a new ELA curriculum, which was very interesting because I really didn't know a lot of the details of how that was going on. So I think they're really doing their due diligence. Seems like they have a variety of teachers in different elementary schools and different grade levels, testing each of these two. So they vetted 6, narrowed it down to the top 2, and then they're doing pilot programs with those. And so we heard from the teachers, actually, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for those teachers to do that. So I was very impressed with how they've thought through the whole process, because I know that's one of the things that kind of came from the board, I think, originally, because we kind of get these adoptions and they'd be like, okay, well, you know, not really knowing how to proceed with an approval when we really didn't have a lot of information. So I think they're going to, when they bring it to us, kind of like the one with the early childhood last year, they're going to have a lot of feedback from a lot of different levels and instructors before they give a recommendation of which one they want to go to. So that was it. And then I guess they have a regional CASIA meeting on October 24th, which I didn't know they were doing regional CASIA meetings, but it looks like it's all day long.
Oh, geez.
So
Other committee reports.
I attended the Spring Hill High School Set Council meeting a couple weeks ago. And well, to start off, 500 kids attended the homecoming dance.
Wow.
Which seems like a lot. Very exciting. Then they spoke a lot about what their school strategic plan was, reducing failures and increasing real world learning through a couple new kind of projects. One project, Lead the Way, which is like an engineering program. So Mr. Williams was super helpful. I asked if we could talk a little bit more in depth about it at the next one, because that seemed really exciting and different. I hadn't heard that. So yeah, it was a great meeting. I also attended the Chamber Women's Breakfast that hosts some of our students every year. So thank you, Chamber, for hosting that and including our students. And I was able to go to the band festival at Emporia State, where our wonderful band pretty much swept every award. And it was wonderful to see. I have Dupain kids, but it really is. We see them at our games and everywhere, and we just hear them and we think they're great. But when you actually compare them and hear the talent gap that we have, it is so amazing. And I want to praise Mr. Woogie and Mr. Brumley, because it's year after year. It's not just the talented kids, but it is those talented directors that lead them. It was so great. And there were a couple times when it just brought tears to my eyes, because it was just so cool to see how proud those kids are out there. It is not easy. And at the site council meeting and a couple other times I've been at the school, and you hear Mr. Woogie, he's tough on them. He holds them to a really high standard, and those kids, they rise to it. So it's exciting to see that, and exciting to see that we have programs like that.
Thank you. And any other committee reports? Moving on to the superintendent's report, Dr. Latrell.
Okay, a couple of them I've already talked about. The State of the District breakfast is this Thursday, November 13th. It is at Woodland Spring Middle School. I talked about the KISA visit, and we'll bring more information back to you once we get the official report. Very positive thing I want to point out was that even which predates my tenure, but prior to me coming on board, the district had been very proactive and had pursued with the venture with entering into the solar array with Evergy, and put that all in place over a period of a year, 18 months, and then actually went live late this summer. One of the first things that I attended during my first weeks was that dedication ceremony, where actually, we had kind of pulled the switch to make it go live. Well, I was had talking with our director of facilities, Kylie, last week, and he was telling me that we're at the point now where we can kind of start comparing some savings when you start taking out the fact that we still have infrastructure to pay for, but we can still kind of make some general comparisons. And so the first full month in last year's bill during the same month, well, let me put for the bill for the high school electric for the most recently completed full month was $21,376. Last year's bill for the same period month was $31,696. So that was a savings of $10,319 for the month of September, which also amount to a 32.5% reduction from last year's bill. Now, again, we've got, an agreement with Evergy over the next numerous years to pay for the equipment and that. But so far, if we continue down the path where we save on average that 10,000 a month, and we're still very early, we're already on track, to eventually to being cash positive, from that. So it's going to be interesting to follow that venture, which again, I think is another great testament to the district since I've been here, and see, again, the forward thinking to go enter into projects like that. And then, as I said, the listen and learn tour is complete. I'm drafting the summary report. Hope to share that late November, early December. Some of the tasks that you all have coming up. The Board of Education, as you all know, always elects officers for the calendar year. The legislature changed it a few years back, to my understanding. So that basically will occur in January of 23. In the meantime, the Kansas School Board Association will have their annual conference the 11th through the 13th in Wichita. And if you plan to attend, I think most of you have, Mrs. Kramer will have those registration credentials for you. And then it's not too early to start thinking about the national conference, which will be April 1st through the 3rd, out of state. And if you're attending there, I think that, again, Clerk Kramer would like to know, so to make sure that we get proper registrations and lodging. And then the next session of our Board of Education, will be held the 24th, but that will be back to one of the AM sessions because we will be having that at one of our attendance centers. And this month on the 24th, the meeting will be at the Spring Hill Early Learning Academy beginning at 7 a.m. So that's my superintendent's report.
Very good. Thank you. We do need an executive session this evening.
Hey, Mr. President, I move the board go into executive discussion for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual under coma. Those to be in session include the Board of Education members, Superintendent of Schools, Assistant Superintendent of Schools, and administrators as requested. Executive session will begin at 8:05. Is that okay? And with the open meeting resuming no later than 8:30 in this place.
Okay. Need a second?
Second.
It's moved and seconded to move to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel under coma. Candy, please collect the vote.
We'll start the vote with Mr. Updike.
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Melius,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
approved.
Very good. Thank you. for personnel.
Are we okay to start, Phil?
Is Keith back in?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Okay.
awesome.
Okay. Mr. President, I move the board recommend the hiring of Donna McKenzie, or Diana, isn't it Diana? Diana McKenzie for the Special Services Coordinator position.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to hire Donna McKenzie for the Special Services Coordinator position. Any questions or comments? Candy, please collect the vote.
We'll start with Mrs. Mitchell.
Yes.
Excuse me. Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Updike.
Yes,
Approved.
very good. Thank you. Welcome. We are adjourned.